We have come a long way, and this is a very special celebration in very many ways, because it is of it. We remind ourselves of the words of St. Paul, that we have to reflect on those who sowed the seeds, those who labored by watering. The seeds have now borne fruit, and we are merely beneficiaries of that blessing. So rather than think of ourselves, we should think about tens of our missionaries, especially of the Dominican Order and the Society of African Missions, who preceded us and who worked in these areas at times when the weather was not even as it is now, when we can regulate the environment by way of air conditioning and fans. And so we are indeed very grateful to God. And today that we gather, we remember to count our blessings and remind ourselves about all the good things that the Lord has done for us. The dedication of our church reminds us of the gift of an altar. In the Old Testament, the word altar appears quite a good number of times, over 50 times. And very often, as we know, it's not necessarily in its modern form and shape. But the idea of altar preceded even Abraham himself. And by the time we come to the New Testament, when Jesus Christ himself personifies the priesthood, sense of God's presence becomes even more dominant. But today we think about Jerusalem and what it meant. The people of Israel had to wait. Not as lucky as we were. They had to wait for 300 years to be able to worship the temple. And very often when we hear of Jerusalem, it's not easy to convey the potency of what the word Jerusalem meant to the people of Israel. I remember about 20 years ago when I went to Israel, and I met a lady who was a tour guide. One of the things she said, which remained very forceful for me, was she said, well, we, the Jewish people, we don't go to Jerusalem with our feet. We go to Jerusalem with our heart. And it's very easy for us. Again, we are living in times when there are aeroplanes, there are motor cars, there are bicycles, there are the kidnappers, and we can now get to church very easily. We're also living in times when so much can be taken for granted. But we must remember those times when men and women genuinely hungered and thirsted. Just to be able to put their feet in Jerusalem. And it is against this backdrop that after the destruction of the temple, the people of Israel felt literally, spiritually, morally, politically, socially naked. We remember, and it's against this backdrop that we can understand the story that we read about the prophet Nehemiah. Nehemiah, as you know, was a very privileged citizen, but he was living in exile. And he was so close to the king that he used to serve the king. He was a cupbearer. Then one day the king saw him and discovered he was looking very sad. It's not an easy thing for, I was just reading something yesterday. It says if a woman wants to get her husband's attention, all she has to do is to look very sad, look very sick, and the husband is likely to say, my dear, what is wrong with you? But all that a man needs to do to get his wife's attention is to smile and look normal. But when Nehemiah looks up, it was significant that the king will notice that his servant wasn't looking very happy and that it would mean anything to him. I think all that demonstrates the closeness, the kind of bond that existed between Jeremiah and his master. But then when the king says to him, what is it that is making you so sad? He says, it is the condition of my people, the condition of the temple in Jerusalem. He was able to get permission to go and reconstruct the temple. Now, as I said, I imagine that many years ago it would have been unthinkable. When in 1999 we heard about Sharia and what Zamfara came to mean and what Gusau came to mean in the minds of many people. And indeed, it is for this kind of thing that we should remain eternally grateful to God about the nature of the Word of God and how God Himself works. That we should be dedicating a church here, the significance should never be lost on us. Many of us remember, for example, what happened in Madala in Christmas Day in 2011. I don't know whether some of you remember. That was the day that St. Teresa's Catholic Church was born. Now for us as Christians, these things have great significance because, as the saying which is very popular among us as Christians goes, the blood of martyrs is the seed of Christianity. And that is why we Christians must learn to take persecution in whatever shape or form it comes, with enough confidence that the God we worship is a God whose supremacy is often expressed in ways and manners that we don't understand. Today, in St. Teresa's Catholic Church Madala, or from St. Teresa's Catholic Church Madala, from the debris of St. Teresa's Catholic Church, as we are talking, St. Teresa's Catholic Church has given birth to 5 new churches between 2011 and today. We do not beg for persecution, but we remind ourselves that the one that we worship is the one who ended up on the cross and who has given us a completely different way of looking at suffering. Today, as I said, we remind ourselves about the early Christian community and how worship was conducted. We read in the Acts of the Apostles in particular, after the institution of the Eucharist, that the early Christian community met together. They broke bread together as evidence of their unity and love for one another. They also knew about how much they shared whatever they had together. But what we now have as a liturgy, and for us as Catholics, it is something that is very important, is that this is something that has taken the better part of 2,000 years. The constant manifestation of what Jesus Christ did. That day, when He broke bread with His apostles. And as I've often said, and I repeat, without meaning to denigrate or compare ourselves with anybody, I think it's always important that we understand who we are as Catholics and how and why we do the things that we do. We are a church, and the center of our lives is on the altar. And the altar is significant because it is from there. What we have merely done is to reproduce the table on which Jesus Christ sat with His 12 apostles. When He says to us, do this in memory of me, that is the same act that we have continued to reenact for the better part of 2,000 years. And we are being clear about who our Father is and who our ancestors are. That is why the only reason why Pope Francis is called the Pope and is also the Pope of the Catholic Church is that he is number 266 in the line of Pope from St. Peter today. So we have a bit of clarity about our ancestry and where we come from. And this is important because, as we all know very well, before Martin Luther, everybody was Catholic. Martin Luther was an Augustinian priest. When he revolted, he opened the doors. And the doors have never closed. But then we have doors opening, and we have men and women, great men and great women, and I take nothing away from them and their greatness, who have founded their churches by simply saying Jesus Christ said this. So it's important to know that if you are a Lutheran, and you know that before the middle of the 16th century, there was no Lutheran church until Luther came. If you are an Anglican, you know that before the coming of King Henry VIII, there was no Anglican church. And we can go down and down and down and say that if you go to Living Faith, you know that before 1952 or thereabout, there was no Living Faith. If you go to Redeem, if you go to Mountain of Fire, whichever church you go to, we can find a date and the name of the founder of the church. It's only the Catholic Church that has no founder. No founder in the sense that it is Matthew, Kukah, or James, or Philip, or Thomas. We can't put a date on when we were founded. We know where we were founded, and we know when we were founded, and we know who our founder is. So when we dedicate this altar, what we are doing is simply reproducing, in a metaphorical sense, transporting the table on which Jesus and his apostles sat on that day. So the center of our worship is not the beauty of the church. It is what we reenact. And that is why today, especially given where we are, I saw our son who did a beautiful story, the dedication of our church in Daura. And I was actually very happy. I didn't think about it that way. When he said that Bishop Kukah dedicates a church in President Buhari's hometown. Now, I don't know whether some of you saw the picture. It was in the paper. I'm sure if you go to Google and you just Google President Buhari and members of the bishops, Catholic Bishops Conference, the picture will come out. Alright, you remember the picture? Some of you may have seen it. It was when the bishop went to visit President Buhari. It was about, a year or two? Early last year, I think. Now, if you notice that picture, you will see that if you look at that picture, you'll notice that all the bishops were seated in one line. I was the last person, and I deliberately went and took the last seat. And when the president got up and started from Archbishop Kaidama, greeting everybody, they were introducing everybody, when he came to me, the president said, well, I don't need an introduction because this is my bishop. That is why if you look at the picture, you will see the president laughing. That is what we are talking about. Because people keep asking me, what was the president saying to you? The president said, this is my bishop. So when we dedicated a church in Daura, I wasn't thinking in that term, but at least he acknowledged that I'm his bishop. But I think what is most important for us is for us to come together when we are celebrating, because we are exceptionally lucky to be having this celebration today, because there are a few things that have not changed, and I want to talk about some of them. Because I want us as Christians, and I want those who are in government and those who have the power to know how we think, what we feel, and how we as Christians feel about our faith and about our country. We are pretending that Boko Haram has just ended, but we know we still have a long way to go. Very, very long way to go. Let's not deceive ourselves. I have said, and I repeat, and those who are in power can cross-check what I say, that the only right that we have in northern Nigeria is to vote for men who are Muslims, only men. Because there is no single woman in the House of Assembly, the State House of Assembly here. Is there a woman? Is there a woman in Sokoto? Is there a woman in Katsina? Is there a woman in Kebbi? Is there a woman in Kano? Is there a Christian in Zamfara? Is there a Christian in Sokoto? Only male Muslims are representing the rest of us. The only time a woman who was a Christian, won a vote in Bauchi State. She was hounded out of the house within a short period of time. The story, if you go and Google Bishop Kukah's letter to Tafawa Balewa, go and Google the letter, read the letter, it's on the internet, read it and you will see the story. And I'm insisting that we must understand that nobody is here as a stranger. All of us, this is our country. What we call Nigeria is 928,000 square kilometers. It is the land that Lord Lugard gave to us. We have not added one single inch. If you add an inch, you enter Niger. Lugard didn't give us this land as Christians or Muslims, as Hausas or Fulanis or Igala or Tim. He gave us land as people living in this country called Nigeria. And when the need has arisen, the first time that a sign of federal government presence was shown in my village, in my little village, the very first time we saw a sign of government presence was when they brought the corpse of a cousin of mine who had died fighting the war somewhere. That was the first time government presence landed in my village. Not through water, not through light. Boko Haram is killing everybody. It is not the people of Borno who are fighting Boko Haram. It is not Muslims that are fighting Boko Haram. It is Nigerians who are fighting Boko Haram. So how come we suffer and we die as Nigerians, and in living, we have different categories of existence? We are the ones building the schools. We are the ones building the clinics. And we have lost one of our reverend sisters. Very experienced, very dedicated, doing what the state itself does not have the capacity or the willingness to do. We die on duty. And yet, after over 60 years, the only land we can claim is the land that Kukah gave to us and the colonial administrators. We go out to vote, but we can't be voted for. Even in Iran, Christians are represented in the National Assembly. Even in Sudan, where South Sudan fought and they cut themselves up, even in the Sudan that is dominated by Muslims, Christians are represented. It's only here we are pretending because we are hypocrites that we say that we want a united country. The resources that are distributed are for the well-being of Nigeria. If a man has a wife or two wives, and you buy a wrapper for only the children of for only one woman, and you send only the children of one woman to hospital, and you send only one woman's children to school, what will the other woman feel? What we should do with our children? We are here. Muslims, whether they are Muslims or Christians, not my business. But nobody using government money meant for the people of Nigeria should be committed to building a mosque or building a church for people. We are building mosques all over the place, but we don't have hospitals. We are building mosques and churches all over the place, and we don't have water. The God we are worshiping does not need a mosque, does not need a church. So we must come to terms with why we are Nigerians. And I say it and I repeat it, that our brothers here in northern Nigeria who continue to behave as if we are living in two countries. Many of you sitting here have businesses. You are paying your taxes. If you are looking for land to build a hotel, government will give you land. If you are looking for a land to build a restaurant, government will give you land. You are looking for land to build a church, they say no, they cannot give you land to build a church. Which God are we worshiping? One of us must be a bastard, because if we say God is our father, and we are not treating one another equally, one of us must be a bastard. We cannot be children of one father. So why Nigeria is not growing and why Nigeria will not grow stable and why Nigeria will never become stable is not because God doesn't love this country. It's because too many hypocrites have taken over power in this country. They are not governing for the well-being of even the Muslims they choose to represent, or even the Christians they pretend to represent. That country loses its sense of being a country. The day you are governor, the day you are president, decide that he's a leader or he's an imam, not a politician. The day he decides he's a pastor, not a leader, then you are in trouble. Because it means that all of us will either become members of his church or his mosque and will only accept the kind of Quranic interpretation he gives or biblical interpretation that he gives. Politics is for politicians, but politics is a responsibility, it's a duty, it's a trust. Those who step forward to become politicians do so with a commitment to manage God's resources effectively and for his children. It is not possible that we are all paying taxes and that the Constitution guarantees us freedom of religion, freedom of worship, freedom to change our religion, freedom to marry whom we want, freedom to live where we want. These are freedoms that the rest of the world has taken for granted. It's only in Nigeria here that hypocrites are pretending and blackmailing themselves and blackmailing their people. We can't marry whom we want, we can't worship where we want. Any governor, any public officer who denies Christians their rights in terms of access to places of worship is a sponsor of Boko Haram. Because what is Boko Haram doing? Boko Haram is killing us as Christians, but those who are denying us land to build churches have laid the foundation. Because they have demonstrated that we are not equal. And maybe I prefer Boko Haram that tells me, if you don't become a Christian, a Muslim, I will kill you. Maybe I better live with that. The only thing, and I encourage you, my people, don't forget about our numbers. Our faith does not depend on how many churches we build. Our faith does not depend on whether everybody becomes a Christian. Our faith depends on the honesty of our commitment, knowing that this God that we are calling, one day all of us will stand and render account. But we cannot go on like this in this country. I mean, I say so because I know I'm a son, a proud son of the Catholic Church. I know what the Catholic Church has done in this country. Without the Catholic Church, 70 or 50 or 60% of those who have education today will be nowhere. Without the Catholic Church, go to Kano, from the area of Kano to the wives of the governors and the wives of the presidents of Nigeria, all of them went to St. Louis, Kano. It is a Catholic school. Even here in Zamfara. You know, when you take somebody's property, what do you call it? You are a thief. Our school here that government has taken over, it doesn't matter where. Those who took over our schools are what you call thieves. They should be standing trial. We didn't give them the school. We didn't break the law by building the school. So nothing happens, all the things happening in this country, that's why I say we will never know peace until we decide to commit ourselves to doing what is right. Now we have a church, we are dedicating this church, so that all of us, when we are in tears, when we come, we will be like the public and we can come here, come and kneel down. When they oppress you in the market, when you are denied your rights, come here, God will answer you. Because the reason why we are Christians, please understand, we don't worship a God that has, you know what the psalmist said? There are those that have eyes but they cannot see. They have ears but they cannot hear. They have mouth but they cannot speak. We Christians worship a God that can talk to us. We worship a God that can talk to us and can hear us. I have said it to the president. He knows my mind. You know, when we had this election, and I expect a lot from our president in terms of ending this nonsense that has been holding Christians and Muslims together. I travel the world and I'm very privileged. As I'm standing here, I am the chairman of the Catholic Bishops' Conference Committee on Interreligious Dialogue. I am the chairman of the Bishops of West Africa, Committee of the Bishops of West Africa, dealing with interreligious dialogue. I was elected in my absence. I am supposed to be representing the bishops of West Africa, all the bishops of West Africa at ECOWAS. I am also representing Africa at the Vatican on interreligious dialogue. I am representing Africa at the King Abdulaziz Center for Interreligious Dialogue in Vienna. I'm not telling you this because I want you to clap for me. I'm telling you because when I talk about dialogue, when I travel out of this country, I have to answer questions. Because every day people ask me, why is your country unable to live together? There are Muslims in Senegal. There are Muslims in Gambia. There are Muslims everywhere. How is it that it's only in Nigeria? And please, let's not even forget. The problem we are having, the Muslims in the southwest have no problems in Nigeria. It is northern Nigeria that is a problem. It's a problem for itself and it's a problem for the rest of us. I'm not the one saying it. Listen to what the area of Kano said. At least I telephoned him that and I said, you are the only one that has the honesty and the courage to say what you have said. The President Buhari, I was convinced, and I'm still convinced, that he has to come to terms with the injustices that have been visited on Christians. Because he was not voted for by Muslims. He was voted for the chairman of the political party on which President Buhari voted to become president. The other parties that he was chairman of, their chairman, he used as platform. I don't know whether, I think most of them were always Muslims. But for the first time, the chairman of the party that fielded Buhari as president of Nigeria, the chairman is a communion receiving Catholic. No, you know. The director of campaign, Amechi, the knight of the church, the communion receiving. So when these Christians put their lives on the line, we expected, and we still expect a fair deal. We voted for the president. Okay, I didn't vote. I was interviewed by a journalist in Rome 2 weeks ago. The journalist said to me, President, we just finished talking to Cardinal. Cardinal said he voted for General Buhari. Whom did you vote for? I said I didn't vote for General Buhari. Because if I say I didn't vote for General Buhari, he said, how can you voted for Jonathan? I didn't vote for anybody. The reason why I didn't vote for anybody was I registered in Kaduna. I was in Sokoto. I didn't expect to be in Sokoto. I couldn't have traveled to Kaduna just to go and vote. I prefer to monitor the election in Sokoto. But the point I'm making is, we Christians have paid our dues. And we don't want you to take what belongs to Abubakar and give it to Thomas. We're not asking you to take what belongs to Aisha and give it to Teresa. Just let us be who we are. If a man has left the safety of his home in Anambra, in Imo, in Bayelsa, wherever, to come and make a home here, he or she does not deserve to live in fear. Because we are making contribution to this country that is not even commensurate with our numbers. Our numbers are rather insignificant. But imagine if all of us who are Christians decided to leave Gozal today, or leave Sokoto, or leave Kebbi. It has happened a few times. Our absence was noticed. So we want to be treated with respect. We want rights that are based on our constitution. The constitution guarantees me freedom of worship. I should not be kneeling down and begging somebody to give me a land to be in a church. And like I said to those who are governors, and I've spoken to them, I told them, they know my mind. I said, by denying us land, you are actually making us stronger. Because we will not become Muslim because you decided not to give us a place of worship. Even those of you who are Muslims, you know, the Holy Prophet of Islam did not go to Mecca on a pilgrimage. He didn't go as a tourist. He fled persecution. The Sokoto Caliphate came to be because Fulanis felt oppressed by the Hausas. Oppression leads to rebellion. And if people don't rebel by force of arms, we Christians are not people interested in arms. But I think that we have done enough to merit more respect in northern Nigeria. I don't want to be tolerated. I am an educated Nigerian. Very educated, let me put it that way. And I can stand my ground anywhere. It is not here that I will come and I will feel inadequate because I happen to be a Christian. I'm a Christian by choice. I have no apology to anybody. Even if you hold 1 million souls before me, I will not change my mind, but I'm asking for respect. When the president fell sick, all of us across this country prayed for him. It's not only Muslims that prayed for him. So I want to end, and I'm sorry if I have sounded emotional, but I want to end by saying this is a great country. But we cannot survive. No airplane can fly successfully on one wing. If there are people who think here that one particular group, whether men or women, Christians or Muslims, Igbos or Yorubas, one group can govern this country alone, you are deceiving yourself. Because it is clear to us living in northern Nigeria, the area of Kano repeated it. Of all the indices of development, northern Nigeria has the poorest results. We have the poorest results. And even among us here, like I said to one of the governors in northern Nigeria, if I were thinking only of my Christians, I don't need to build a school. Because all those who come to my church know the value of education. They will send their children to school. If they can't get school, they will send their children somewhere. But if I'm building a school here, it is because of their children. But I can't understand how I will be here. Young sisters are here, priests are here. We want to help and deal with the issues of our common humanity, and somehow it is a problem. A businessman can go and bribe and get his land to do whatever he wants to do, good or bad. And yet those of us who have a record, the Catholic Church has over 1,000 years, we started university education. We started education in its strictest sense. There is no department of human life that the Catholic Church is a stranger to. So I want to end by saying, and I appeal to the president, to come to terms. This nonsense you people are talking about fighting corruption, and you think corruption is stealing money. The worst form of corruption is the denial of the right and identity of the other. It is the worst form of corruption. Whether it is the rights of women you deny, or the rights of children you deny, or the rights of Christians you deny, or the rights of Muslims you deny, anybody that targets a particular community, it is the worst form of discrimination and the worst form of corruption. No, we might be wasting our time thinking that corruption is stealing money. Stealing money is a symptom. You can see yourself, the government is beginning to lose many of its major cases. Today we are before EFCC. You know, it's only in Nigeria you can be a senator, EFCC calls you, you take permission, go, you take a bow, go and finish with EFCC on Monday or Tuesday, you come back and take your seat again. We must make our country great. Going forward, I want to call my brothers and sisters. This church that we are dedicating today, we are dedicating it to truth, to justice, to fairness, to equity. And those of you who are women, when you are grieved, come here like Anna and come and cry out. Your husband is difficult, your wife is difficult, come here, you can dance here like a baby. Whatever you tell our God, listening God, He will hear you. I want to end, and maybe I'll come back to it, but today I want to pay special tribute and attention, but maybe I'll do it after communion. But I want to end by appealing to all of us. Let us not make contract with evil. Let us not sign a contract with injustice. But I insist, and you will hear me again, this country will never, ever be stable. It will never be united. It will never be peaceful until each and every one of us as a citizen feels a sense that we are not walking and looking at our back. That I can appear for an interview, and the fact that my name is Ngozi, that my name is Thomas, doesn't make me inadequate. You know, in Abuja, there is a case I personally took the Human Rights Commission. We are not finishing. About 54 young people in Sokoto, they came to me. They said they were thrown out of the police. On ground that it was discovered that they were Christians, and they took, so I call it Muslim name or Islamic name or other names. But they said this is the only way we could make it. I've been told by parents who say to me, They say, no, you cannot be James and be an indigenous of Sokoto or Kebbi or Katsina. These are the things we are hearing. When they are taking your taxes, they are not asking whether you are James or Thomas. So we will not make peace with injustice. And we will make sure that injustice remains unable to sleep. But the justice to one becomes justice to all. May God bless us all.